Hello and welcome back to the Scoop with Coop. I'm of course Coop, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at who is really the NBA MVP and who are the players and the people that are really in the heart of this discussion. And I think if we're going to start off with looking at who the MVP is, we got to know what is important to me about the MVP. And I think that there's at least three things that are really the most important. The first, how good are your stats? I know that's a very basic and easy way to look at it, but you're not going to win MVP if you're putting up 5 points. The second thing is team success and how conducive to winning they are. So this is very much a if you remove this player from their team, how good is their team aspect and how important are they to how their team operates. And the third isn't strictly as much pure basketball, but how has the narrative of this season been with them involved? So if there's a player who's had just a ton of big moments, that holds a lot of weight for me and how I view this player. So I think, without further ado, let's jump in. This is not going to be in any particular order, and at the very end, I will state how I have these players ranked. But I think that there are a few players, a lot more than in years past, where just looking at who I have in this discussion, there are 7 players who I feel all are deserving to be the MVP. And let's just start with the guy who's the most recent winner of this award, and that is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And SGA on the season, he's been okay. He's only put up 31 and a half, 4.5, and 6.5. Yeah. He has been absolutely spectacular. He's been very efficient on all of his shots. And the whole argument against Shea is kind of silly, in my opinion, with the whole, it's not ethical. I don't care. I seriously don't. If it is so bad to do, right, then just don't make it possible. If it is truly that bad for the product of basketball, that is on the officials to dictate how the game should be played. That is not on the players. Because if you can go to the free throw line 9 times a game, which is what he does, and you make 8 of them, why not? Why wouldn't you? That those are free points, and it is just so beneficial for your team for that to happen. So I don't understand the whole argument against it, to be honest, because I don't view it as based in reality. I view it as more so a wanting to get irritated about something. But so looking at SGA, right, his points are down from last year by a point, but I think his all around game this year has been so much better. And he's also extremely conducive to winning, as the Thunder are the best team in the league, and they are not that great without him on the floor. He has played 56 games for them, so you do worry a little bit about durability, but nothing crazy, as there isn't a whole lot of time left on the season. But Shea's numbers are insane. 55% from the field, 38.5, and 89. I mean, that is just insane efficiency. He really is the point guard of this team, even though he is a 6'6" guard, which is kind of unheard of, but he is the new wave of the NBA. He is the player the teams want to build around. He is absolutely spectacular, and this team in Oklahoma City, while they do have a lot of talent around him, that talent would not be anywhere near the level that they are if SGA wasn't on the floor. His mid range game, pure. His inside scoring, good luck stopping it. And he really doesn't have many weaknesses in his game. Because even when you look on the defensive end, he is still a high quality player, averaging 2 stocks a game. And a stock is a steal and a block combined. He's averaging zero point 0.8 blocks and 1.4 steals. He is generating more turnovers than times he is turning the ball over itself. SGA absolutely deserves to be in this conversation, and he is a very key player in this discussion. The next player up in this is Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons. Well, he is one of these players where his numbers are not as good as SGA's, just point blank period. I don't think they're as good. But what makes Cade such a compelling player is how important he is to his team. Because this Pistons team has been the top of the East all year long, and outside of Cade, they don't really have a whole lot of offensive power. Just they don't have much shooting. They don't have a great offensive team. And Cade Cunningham puts up 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists with the steal and a half and a block a game. He is a two-way player. He is absolutely electric on offense. He's great on defense. And what really makes him the full package of a player is how he's able to make the players around him better. Because if you look, Jalen Duren, sure, he's a good player. Isaiah Stewart, he's a good player. Amen Thompson, or Asar Thompson, sorry. Asar, he's a pretty good player too. They're just that. They're just pretty good. And Cade is able to be the focal point of this team and elevate them to a level where they are a legitimate title contending team. And I think that overall, Cade Cunningham is definitely in this discussion simply because he is so conducive to this team's success. His numbers are phenomenal, and his efficiency isn't as great as some of the other players on this list, but he is their offense. I really doubt that if Cade Cunningham wasn't on this Pistons team, I don't know if they would be in the top 5 teams in the East. And I know that the East isn't very good, but I think that that is how much and how highly I view him. Because Cade really doesn't have a whole lot of spacing. I mean, they're telling Tobias Harris is a spacer for this team. They have no true offensive firepower outside of Cade, and he's able to really take this team that is pretty good, and he's able to make them into an absolutely spectacular juggernaut. So Cade Cunningham is absolutely in this discussion, and I think that it's not talked about enough how truly good he is. Because he's not one of these players where he'll go out into the media and he'll say, oh, I deserve to be in here, I do all this, I do all that. No, Cade Cunningham is quiet, and I think he is the perfect representation of Detroit. And I know that that seems kind of crazy, but he's one of those players where he puts his head down and he works. And it's absolutely fantastic when one of these Midwestern teams, and I know that I'm kind of biased saying that, right? But it's absolutely fantastic when one of these Midwest teams who's just gritty and is willing to fight their way to victories. And I love it for the NBA. I love it for Cade, and I love it for this Pistons team because let's face it, the NBA is a better place when Detroit has competent basketball, and that's exactly what they have under their leadership of Cade Cunningham. And the next player on this list, sticking in the East, is Jaylen Brown. And if you go back to one of my older videos, I probably said something how I don't know if Jaylen Brown's a number 1 option. Woo, was I wrong. Because this Celtics team that he is leading right now is dangerous. Truly dangerous. When I thought this was going to be a rebuild year, Jaylen Brown just told me to shut up. Because he is averaging 28, 7, and 5. Checking the boxes in terms of stats. But then when you look at the team's best player isn't there. He is stepping up. He is elevating. He is rising to the occasion. And he is putting the entire Northeast on his back and saying, Boston, I got you. I will elevate this team. We're going to change up how we're going to play basketball. We usually are focused on Jason Tatum, but he's not walking through those doors until he did because he was attacked rehab like a psychopath. But even now, when Jason Tatum's back, I think that he was able to come back so quickly, and the Celtics are so laxed, and I don't want to say relaxed, but they are so comfortable with him coming back because Jaylen Brown is balling out. He is spectacular. This Celtics team is a true threat to win the championship, not because of Jason Tatum anymore, but because of Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown, he has been absolutely fantastic. He has the most rebounds of his career, the most assists of his career, and the most points of his career. He is having the best season of his career, and he is 100% solidified himself as an absolute icon in the city of Boston because he has put the team on his back like Greg Jennings. Shout out if you know that clip. But in all seriousness, Jaylen Brown has stepped up in the absence of Jason Tatum. He has stepped up and led this team to be able to be in a position where they can compete for a championship, and he is the one doing that. So I know his stats, while they are a little bit better than Cade, they aren't as good as some of the other players on this list, but I think purely for the factor similar to Cade, where if he wasn't there, this team would be in shambles and disarray. So without a shadow of a doubt, Jaylen Brown deserves to be in this conversation. The next player up, he doesn't have a whole lot of wiggle room left for games that he can miss, and that is Victor Wembanyama. We know about the defense. We know about the 3 blocks, which is a career low for him, which is kind of crazy, and a steal, right? So, best defensive player that I've seen in my life, and yes, I will die on that hill. But he's also the focal point of this Spurs team that is so good, elevating so quickly, and all things considered, they don't have that premium talent that other teams do. Because this Spurs team, sure, they have De'Aaron Fox, they have Stephon Castle, they have Devin Vassell, they have good players, but Wemby is able to clear out 8 feet of room, an 8-foot circumference from the basket that Wemby is just, that's his zone. Defensively, he is the best player in the league, and I value two-way impact. And let's face it, Wemby's the best defensive player, and he's no slouch on offense. 51% from the field, 36 from 3, and 81 from the cherry stripe. He is absolutely spectacular offensively, and we have seen a true growth in him, not necessarily in the pure just linear, but more so in the leadership, how he really handles being a competitor and being a contending team. And also, he's just been able to be more reliable, and he's been able to be out on the floor more than he was last year. Now, last year was because of a blood clot, so I mean, it's not necessarily like it's up to his control. But I do think that Wemby's taking better care of his body, and you also see that I don't want to say size that he's put on, because with a player like Wemby, you don't want to get too big to where you create a chance for injury. But that stability and strength that he has built is really showing, because now he's not able to get bullied around in the post as much. Because it used to be that if you just put your shoulder in Wemby's chest, if you're a bigger guy, that would be able to work. That doesn't work anymore. Wemby has absolutely fixed the strongest part of his game, and now offensively, he is really having the best offensive season of his career. Not to mention, you also added 11 points or 11 rebounds on top of that. So he has been absolutely spectacular. The Spurs are flying, the Spurs are soaring, and he absolutely is in contention for the MVP. It's just about will he make it to 65 games. I believe he has 2 games that he can miss before he is no longer eligible. But I do think that if Wembanyama is able to stay healthy and play, he will win Defensive Player of the Year. But he is in strong contention to win the Most Valuable Player. And we're going to stay in the West. The next player up that I think has a shot at the MVP is that man out in LA, Luka Doncic. I know for years, everyone in the NBA has been saying, when is it Luka's time? Well, it might be this year. Because Luka Doncic has been on an absolute tear where he dropped ungodly numbers on my Chicago Bulls, but we don't need to rehash past trauma. Luka this year has been putting up 33 points, and he leads the league in points. He's third in assists with 8.5, and he's getting 8 rebounds. His defense, still not great, but he's been able to work with a not great team around him to where he's put the Lakers in contention to compete. And he also he has been an absolute killer. If you need a bucket, you go to Luka. And I think that having those moments where he will take over stretches, and at points it's like, I don't even know what you do. Because if you stay in front of him, he will start making his 3 pointers. Because it used to be in his first couple years in the league, he was shooting 31%. Nope, he's shooting 36 now. So I mean, you can't even necessarily stay back. So I really don't know how you stop him. His efficiency is very, very good, not up to that insane standard, but Luka has been absolutely balling out, and LA have found themselves an absolute killer for the purple and gold. And speaking of absolute killers in the West, my oh my, is the West a bloodbath, because we have Anthony Edwards, someone who Luka and him have gotten into it a little bit before. But Anthony Edwards averaging 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Now, when looking at the Timberwolves, they don't have that premier talent necessarily. They have a good team around him. But I think that Anthony Edwards is what makes the Timberwolves so good. And also, when you look at, he's the team's best offensive player, and he is one of the team's better defenders. I mean, I still think Jaden McDaniels is a better perimeter defender, and Rudy Gobert's defensive impact, he's really good defensively. But he is, I'm talking about Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is just absolutely fantastic as a player. Anytime you need a big moment, you go to him. And also, he's made leaps as a really good 3 point shooter now, where he's shooting over 40%, as well as he's knowing now how to not as much turn the ball over as much, because now he's below 3 turnovers for the first time since 2021. And when talking about Anthony Edwards, you get the whole Michael Jordan comparison, which as someone who's wearing a Jordan jersey, I think it's kind of ridiculous, because we're not going to see any player specifically like him. But Anthony Edwards' game is very, very much a absolutely beautiful product. He has made Minnesota cool. Well, not temperature-wise, because they're always cold. But I absolutely love Anthony Edwards. He has that killer mentality, that killer instinct, and obviously people hash on that a ton. But I think that his overall ability to now be more of a leader for a team, where knowing when it's time to let other players do their thing, he has stepped up in that regard. He also has just been someone where he's just been a dog, right? And I know that that's such a easy thing to throw around. He has been an absolute dog. His mentality and his drive motivates the rest of the team, and he has made the Timberwolves a good team, and a team where, although the past couple of years, they've made it to the Western Conference Finals, I think now is a clear chance for them to be able to, if they can get past OKC and the Spurs. So, the West is very tough, but I do think that we have seen another evolution into the career of Anthony Edwards, and I do think he is very much deserving of being in this MVP conversation. And would it be an MVP conversation if we didn't talk about that Serbian man again? All right, so Nikola Jokic, he's put up 28, 13, and 10, yada, 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 you get that. But on a more serious note, Nikola Jokic, he's been absolutely balling, right? He's another one of these players where his availability is going to come in handy, and he's going to need to play more, because he missed time with, I believe it was a hyperextension in his leg. But Nikola Jokic, averaging a triple-double. He's top 5 in points, rebounds, and assists, and he isn't 2, 3, or 4, or 5 in rebounds and assists. He is the ultimate stat sheet stuffer, as well as I think his defense has really come a long way, as he's averaging a steal and a half as well as a block a game. So the whole narrative that Jokic is a poor defender is just not based in reality anymore. But I do truly think that if we want to give this to Jokic, it's not the wrong decision. But I do think the voter fatigue comes into it, as well as this season hasn't been Nikola Jokic's season. And I think that this season has been more defined by other players, simply. And I think that while that may not be the most fair term, I don't want the NBA to set a precedent that the best player wins MVP, because then it would make all of the past look poor. Because then it would look, why doesn't LeBron have like 15 MVPs? Why doesn't Jordan have 9? It's just it would alter NBA history, and I do already think that Jokic has been given his flowers, so it's time to give them to more. And also, Jokic is a player who just doesn't care about that, which that's completely fine and honestly good. Because if I'm a GM and if I'm a coach, I don't want my player caring about that. I don't want him to worry about winning games and winning championships, and that's exactly what Nikola Jokic is cared about. But I do think that it's time for someone else to really earn that spotlight. So I just don't think that necessarily this is Nikola Jokic's time. So after going across all of the players who I believe are most deserving of MVP, we now have the list. And let's take a look at that, shall we? Number one, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I know, I talked about giving new players their props, but SGA has just been so dominant that I don't see a way in which you can give it to someone else. I mean, he has been absolutely spectacular. He's on the best team in the league. He is just truly fantastic. And I also think that when it comes down to who do you want on your team, you want SGA. He might be the best player alive. He's his two-way impact, fantastic. Coming off of a championship, you get to see um, the true change and shift in his game that we've seen, where now he's much more so not taking as many ridiculous shots, but he's a lot more calculated. He's a lot more efficient. He's just so much, I don't want to say so much better, because he was already a finals MVP, but I think this year especially, he's taken a clear step in his game in regards to just being more of a team player and really focusing on what works for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And so I think SGA is the number one. I think he is the MVP. At number two, I've got Cade Cunningham. I think that Cade absolutely has taken a step. He's made it clear that this is his time to make sure to elevate Detroit, and this is his moment to step up and shine. And I think that Cade has really taken Detroit from such a grim place, and he's made Detroit fun. He has made Detroit mean, and I love that. I love how important Cade is to their success. I love how fun and how much joy that Cade plays with. I love what Cade Cunningham is doing, and I think that the NBA needs more players like him, where people who they're not going to do all of the charade. Put your head down, work, and grind. And I love what Cade Cunningham has done. I think there's another level to his game that he can take, but I think that he just falls short to SGA because I don't think the team success is there as much and his stats aren't there as much, but I do think that they are one and the same in terms of their importance to their teams. So unfortunately, that's why Cade is number two as the MVP. But I think that in no regards is this a shot at Cade. He has been absolutely spectacular and fantastic, and I feel like it's just not his time yet. But he is blossoming into that superstar and that high quality player that is someone who will run the West for a long time. Hopefully not, but looking at it objectively, this is Cade's team. This is Cade's side of the bracket, outside of a player which we will address. But then at number three, I think that strictly based on all of the things that we've seen, assuming that he stays healthy, I think Victor Wembanyama is the third player for MVP because a few weeks ago people were clowning on Victor Wembanyama for crying after winning a regular season game, which the full context around that, looking at it strictly, oh, he was crying after winning a regular season game. A person close to him died. And I think that the whole narrative and the whole media being, oh, look at these soft Europeans, is just very much a truly disgusting thing. And I think that the way that we talk about Wembanyama is either, oh, he's soft because he's from Europe, which the whole soft aspect of talking about players is just ridiculous. But Wembanyama is someone where he is so dominant defensively that you have grown men wanting to avoid him more so than people were avoiding COVID. Victor Wembanyama defensively is so dominant that he just blocks off a 6 foot radius. I mean, you might as well call him COVID at this point because he is a plague for other teams to go against, and he is absolutely creating havoc. And Victor Wembanyama, offensively, he's kind of stayed a little bit more of the same, but he's just being better at not taking completely what are those type of shots, but he has been much better at being more calm and decisive. And also, he's just been absolutely spectacular as a leader, as a player who can elevate his game. And he's one of those people where I think he will get to another level in the playoffs. He's also been the key cog on a very, very good Spurs team, which I believe now they're the third or fourth team in the league. But he's been on those teams. So that is my top three: gold, silver, and bronze. Those are the three. At number one, we got Shea. At number two, we got Cade. And then at number three, we got Wemby. So great effort by the rest, but I do think that is the podium. Let me know in the comments below if you disagree with my takes and my thoughts. And this was The Scoop with Coop, and until next time, so long.